So when I use the word skill, I primarily mean one thing: language skill. Language determines the conversation. The conversation determines the relationship. The relationship determines the outcome. In other words, if I like you, I'm going to be open to it. If I don't like you, you're going down because you're trying to take me down.
What is up, everybody? It's Ed Gow Jr. from Dad Central and the Dad Central Show. Summer is here, and I'm not dancing in the streets, but I'm dancing. What are you doing, Drew?
Oh, that's so good, Ed. Thanks so much. What am I doing? I'm Drew Solon here, Dad Central and the Dad Central Show. I am, as I mentioned before, in the middle of coordinating 5 different children, all their different needs, summer activities, summer schedules, and maybe a little bit of vacation in there. So there's a lot of calendaring, maybe even some spreadsheets are on the budget, a lot of coordinating who's going where and what direction. So that's kind of what's happening in my world these days.
Yeah, well, let's get it. The Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man, because when men care for themselves and others, there is a positive impact. Spreadsheet King. All right, Mr. Excel. Yeah.
I'm not sure I'm worthy of that title. But,
I'm not either. Like, it's one of those things that I respect people who are very good at Excel. Like, I'm just the basics guy. Like, I see people doing pivot tables and all this stuff and going, no, I'm not. No,
when's the AI for Excel coming out where they literally do it all for you?
I'm sure it's already available. If
Actually,
not,
you're right. I'm sure there is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But what else is up? So other than, how's the baseball? Are you back at baseball yet?
Got a game tonight.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Here we go. Here we go. Beautiful weather. Beautiful weather.
Should be good. So I'm looking forward to it. And then my son, Jordan, he's playing on the select team. So he's got a game. He's traveling. So our first real 2-hour drive for us to get to his first game this Sunday morning. So that's it's going to be fun. Looking forward to seeing that.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
And you?
Gradually going tornado as usual. I attended a really good session on fatherhood the other day. And one of the points that came out that I really, really was passionate to hear, it was done by a gentleman who I very much respect. He said, moms and dads love equally, but they love differently. Loved. There were so many knowledge bombs from this gentleman during the session he laid. And I want everyone who's listening to know that moms and dads love equally, but they love differently. I think a number of people may not realize that, but if you watch, there's equal love there, just different love. What do you think about that statement?
It's interesting you say that. The first thing that comes to mind is the word competition. And, sometimes there's this mom versus dad competition that can creep in, and for whatever reason or not, which I think is, obviously the counter opposite of what you're really looking for when you're working together as parents. And so, but there's also the element, the other thing I think of when you say that is, the unique nature of how a father and a mother contribute equally to the benefit of the child. And I think that's also a really important point from that statement there.
Yeah.
Which, we're talking about this.
Yeah.
With our new guest that we're having on will, I think, shed a lot of light and tremendous insight, because today we're talking with Gary Buddy Burge. He is Canada's marriage therapist. And so for 60 years, Dr. Burge has been one of Canada's leading experts on marital satisfaction and North America's foremost authority on the executive marriage. So Dr. Burge has a long list of accomplishments in that time, but one of them I want to mention is he's an author of 23 different books on marriage and communication. And so Dr. Burge, we're honored to have you here and really excited for this conversation. So welcome to the Dad Central Show.
No, it's great to be here, Drew. It really is. I love the work you guys are doing, and I feel privileged to be sharing with you today. I really do.
Yeah, well, Gary, it's great to have you. And, I can see you're a man of process because every time we chat with you, one of your core lines is, I love the work that you guys do. Even before we we got on the recording here, I love the work that you guys do. It's so wonderful to hear that. And we need to hear that, and we appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
What's up? What's up? Let's get it going, Drew. Let's start it off.
Yeah, well, Dr. Burge, our typical guests, we start with a little bit of backstory, but for you, your stories are going to be a little bit different because we really want to focus in on your skill set as Canada's marriage therapist. So, can you tell us, how did you become Canada's marriage therapist?
Well, as you indicated earlier, Drew, I've been in the people helping industry for 60 years, and really since university. My life has been consumed and driven, intoxicated actually, with one two-part question. Question one, what makes people do what they do? Question two, way more importantly, what do you do about it? And so I've spent these 60 years reading, studying, going to school far too long, et cetera, to figure out not only why people do what they do, but how do you weave and navigate your way through to learning how to elevate the conversation so it doesn't disintegrate into a pissing contest. And in so doing, advancing the relationship and the feelings they're in, because relationships are all about feelings. And creating a transcendent resolution, the best of what you want, the best of what your counterpart wants, but something even better. And that's a skill that everybody needs. Emotion without skill is chaos.
Oh my goodness. Can we pause just right there? Can we just pause right there? That to me is so important. Can you say that again one more time?
Emotion without skill is chaos. So you feel something, and look at the first thing in any encounter that's a little bit distressed or there is some variance of opinion, the first thing you always get is a reptilian impulse. The reptilian brain is that old physical brain that we needed on the grassy plains of Africa to keep us alive. But it had to be a selfish brain. It was trying to keep you away from physical danger. So it still thinks we're back in the grassy plains of Africa. Your argument with your spouse or friend feels like it's a tiger lunging at you from the bush. There is no tiger, there is no bush, but the reptilian brain thinks there is. And the reptilian brain is 25 times faster than the rest of our brain. The reptilian brain never loses. So immediately we go into a fight or flight mode. Now, how do you manage yourself? How do you manage the other person to bring about a rich, deep, shared, collaborative resolution? That's skill. In other words, the old Chinese proverb, he who masters others is mighty, he who masters himself is almighty. So the skill of self-mastery, so that you know how to navigate a good relationship and communication in the face of distress, crucial skill. And everybody needs it. Look, in business, you're trying to win. That's easy. Just be better or smarter than the next guy. But in marriage, you're trying to understand. Well, try to give understanding. If you don't think you're getting it, impossible, no can do. So a big part of what the work I do is helping people with skills. And this is very important that I say this. Our working hypothesis is always, you're a wonderful couple, ain't nothing wrong with nobody, no one's to blame, no one's at fault. The problem is the problem. Not the husband, not the wife, the problem. Didn't know what to do. And if you don't know what to do and you don't have the appropriate and requisite skills, things are going to go sideways, go south, and the horse will be out of the barn on a slow boat to China. Down the drain we go.
Well, Gary, in that short piece, you gave a ton of information that really could be explored in so many different ways, but also a ton of just, I think, wisdom and truth. Where I think I want to start is most people hearing that would in their brain say that makes sense. But when it comes down to actually how do you do that when the reptilian brain reacts so quickly and takes over, how does skill begin to overpower that?
So when I use the word skill, I primarily mean one thing, language skill. Language determines the conversation. The conversation determines the relationship. The relationship determines the outcome. In other words, if I like you, I'm going to be open to it. If I don't like you, you're going down because you're trying to take me down. So how does it work? The old credo, treat me good, I'll treat you better, treat me bad, I'll treat you worse. Now, what this presumes is I need to know what your nature neurologically and otherwise is, your temperament, so that I can weave language that makes you feel, oh my Lord, you understand me for who I am, you appreciate me for what I do. Of course I'm going to be better to you. I can't help myself. In other words, language will change the other person way more than they could ever change themselves. Let me say it again. Language will change your counterpart way more than they could ever change themselves. Language, conversation, relationship outcome. So when as I pursued it through life and became more involved in marital work, and I'm also a corporate psychologist. I've coached about 527 CEOs over the course of the last 40 years. What I began to realize was reciprocity is everything. Reciprocity is this. You scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. Yes, but you're not scratching where I'm itchy. Well, you should be itchy where I'm itchy. What's the fucking problem? And we're done. It's over. Why? Because I'm being so good to you and you're not being good to me. So I worked for about 20 years at the Etobicoke General Hospital here in Toronto with about 120 physicians who would refer patients to me with troubled marriages. You'll see in a minute, these marriages were a mess. And then I did my doctorate work and I studied all the longitudinal marital studies, the first major study in marriage being 1938 up until 1995. There had been 115 major studies, 45,000 couples. So these findings were very reliable and consistent. And it was stunning. The four most potent and effective therapies during that period of time, according to the academic literature, were the four therapies I was using with these couples to help them restore and heal their marriage. And even back then, I was meeting with a success rate of 93%, which is rather unusual and rather high. And so now I say to people, look, you come all the way down to my clinic with some very egregious concerns, and instead of psychobabble, or instead of psychological mumble jumble, we're going to do the four things that science says are the best four things we could possibly do to restore and to heal your marriage. So the most foundational therapy of all is called social exchange. That's reciprocity. We always and inevitably treat the other person the way we think they do, not the way they think, the way we think. I'm not criticizing you. I'm helping you. Oh, really? So what does that mean? It means I can affect you in a wonderful way if I understand your nature, give you the feelings of understanding for who you are, appreciation for what you do. It will change you. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin will be released into your bloodstream, that dreaded and awful enzyme for stress. Cortisol will be banished to the dark night. You've already got what you want. That then inclines you to go, well, hold it. If you're going to be good to me, shouldn't I kind of be the same to you? That's how everybody works. There ain't never been no anthropological, no sociological study ever where reciprocity was not the basis of all human interaction. So we start there. Do I have a good deal? Well, if you don't feel like your partner really likes you, if you feel they're causing you stress and unhappiness, how can you possibly be happy in that marriage? So we got to get you through this process, this four-step process.
So let me can I pause
with you?
Can I pause and ask one quick question about that?
Sure.
Because at the beginning you said emotion without skill is chaos. And then
Yes.
what you just said there is, if I don't feel like you're like me, then it's not gonna, like, there's gonna be some issues here. But that emotion without, maybe there isn't validity, maybe there's some, your feelings are not actually based on how you're actually being treated. They're based on some other things. So how do you navigate? And I know you're going down the path of the four, and I'm on the edge of my seat. I want to know what these four most effective elements are.
It's a great question, and you'll be amazed at how easily it's answered.
Okay.
Again, you'll be amazed because look, how does everybody function? You're interested in yourself. So the first thing I say to someone, I have several corollaries to the law of reciprocity, but corollary 11 says the goal in communication is what will advance or benefit the relationship. So the question in a marriage is never who is right or wrong, But whose moment is it? And by moment, I mean who started the sentence, who's the most effective. So I'll say to a couple, first of all, we need an arbiter to determine who should speak and who should listen. And by listen, I mean not interrupting, listening not to respond, but to understand and to summarize back to your partner their thoughts and feelings to their satisfaction. So a couple will come in and they're arguing about something, and the one partner will say, he's an effing idiot. The guy's an idiot. I can't stand him. And he'll go, well, you're a you know what? And I'll say, okay, tell me about the argument. Who started the sentence? Well, and everybody in my stories is Jimmy and Jenna for confidentiality reasons. Well, Jenna started the sentence. Well, Jimmy, it's her moment. And he'll go, "Turn around, Bajafat. She's way too, what she's saying is nuts. It's her moment." Okay, I'll listen to her. So then I'll suggest what he can say. And here's what you can always say. If it's a woman, 2 out of every 3 women are feelers. They're more sensitive. This is the work of Carl Jung. This is why knowing a person's temperament is so important. So you would say to your female spouse, boy, you really are, you're really hurt and worried and upset by what I said, aren't you? So you name the feeling. Then you show support. You go, well, you should feel that way. I can see you'd feel that way. Then you offer reassurance. I should be way more thoughtful and sensitive to everything you feel. You're so good to me. And look how often I just don't hear what you're feeling and needing. I can guarantee you, after 18 seconds, that angry woman will go, oh my Lord, oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, the man understands me. He changed her. Now, she might be dubious. So again, he says, so you're a little dubious or worried that I don't mean this. Yeah, well, you should feel that way. I haven't done this for you. I should have, because you're so good to me. Now, by this time, she's done. She goes, oh, well, hold it. But I'm not always good to you either, you know. Now, that's an important moment. Why? Is your partner in love with the sound of their voice or your voice? Their voice. So the moment you tell them they're wrong, you may as well throw gasoline in the fire. But if you know how to facilitate them by listening, the human brain cannot multitask. It can only iterate. It cannot do 2 opposite things simultaneously. So try to think how wonderful your partner is when you're angry with them and possible. So now you're replacing your partner's negative emotions with oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, and they can't help themselves. They go, well, yeah, but I'm not always that good to you either. You know that, right? And you're good. So when you hear your words, your thoughts, your ideas coming out of the other person's mouth, ka-ching, 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 you've communicated. Now they're telling you what you want to tell them. And it works every single time. Why? You are promoting in your partner their nature that they can never change, that started in them as an 8-week-old fetus in their mother's womb and will be with them till the day they draw their last breath. So now how you're aligning your language with their neurological need. That's incontrovertible. And then they change without realizing it. So you're not going to change you. You're going to change your partner by giving them the feelings they need that makes them exceed and transcend themselves by virtue of the law of reciprocity.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that. It's clear for me. So are you going to go on to 2, 3, and 4 of those? Okay.
So let me go through several more corollaries. Corollary number 1. The corollary is the application of the law. Corollary 1. In a distressed and ongoing relationship, we always think that we are doing and giving more than the other person. That's the reptilian brain. It will never let the other person, it will never let you think that your displacement and your dislocation is less than theirs. You always feel yours, your contribution, your effort much more. So what does this mean? If your partner thinks you think you're better than you think are you crazy? Look what I do for you. So you start there and you realize that the first thing I have to do to communicate with my partner is to realize that he or she always, ALWAYS, always thinks that they are doing and giving more than me. So we start there. So in my marriage with Sharon or in your marriage with your wives, what's the first thing you do? You start and you make it about them. So I tell couples this all the time. This will take a minute. Is that okay? I tell couples all the time. In a marriage, you should never be honest, but you should tell the truth. You go, what? What do you mean? Our problem is we're not honest enough. A marriage is bilateral. It goes two ways. It takes two to tango. But honesty is not bilateral. It's unilateral. It's about me. What I think, what I need, what I want. And it feels great, darn it, because you're standing up for yourself. But chocolate cake feels great too, but it's not very good for you. And the reason being honest doesn't work is it doesn't first take into account the feelings, needs, nor perspective of the other person who already thinks that they're doing and giving more than you. In other words, your honesty is always experienced by your partner as aggression and criticism. In the millions and millions of marriages since the dawn of time, and the millions of arguments within those marriages, being honest has never worked once, ever. Why? You go, how do you know? You weren't there. Because the reptilian brain in 200,000 years has not changed one iota. The moment you feel you're not being heard, appreciated, understood, the reptilian brain goes crazy. So being honest doesn't work. It's never worked. I'll tell you two quick little stories. So I had a couple in about a year ago. Lovely couple. And the woman says, I tell my husband what I want. I tell my husband what he needs, what I need, and he won't do it. And I said, oh, Jenna, have you ever asked your husband what he might want and what he might need? She furrows her brow and goes, why would I do that? I'm amazing to this man. And then the husband chimes in and says, there's no effing way you're getting nothing from me till you give me what I want, baby doll. Done. Game, set, match. We always treat the other person the way we think they treat us. A second one. I had a couple in about a month ago. The woman went off to her individual therapist, and the therapist said, well, just go home and honestly share with your partner how you feel. That's the stupidest advice that anyone has given, because no one cares about how you feel till they know that you first care about how they feel. No one cares about your truth till they know that you first care about their truth. So being honest has never worked. But the opposite, being dishonest, doesn't work either. So if honesty is too much about me and not enough about you, well, dishonesty is too much about you and not enough about me. So I walk in eggshells. I don't say everything I think and feel for fear of conflict. And then I end up compromising and jeopardizing my person and my dignity. I can't even be myself on my own marriage. What a joke. So being honest doesn't work. Too much about me, not enough about you. Being dishonest doesn't work. Too much about you and not enough about me. Well, then what the heck works? Truth. Why? Truth is about the relationship. Truth is about us. So here's Jimmy. Here's Jenna. Here's the truth. The shared amalgam, the shared experience we create together by virtue of our loving communication. And the only way to get to the truth, there's only one way, is to make it about your partner and their truth first. And the only truth, the only and singular truth that anybody who's ever been married has ever had is this: look what I do for you, for crying out loud, can't you show me a little appreciation? So if you want to tell your partner something you know they do not want to hear nor will agree with, you tell the truth. And you start off and say, boy, Jimmy, boy, Jenny, you poor person. Why? Well, man, look how good you are to me. I should be showing you way more appreciation for everything you do for me. My Lord, you're so good to me. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin, you've got your truth. Then you say, but the reason I say you poor thing is the other day you said something to me and it really hurt and angered me, my truth. But the truth is, I don't know how to tell you this. Nobody does. No one's ever known. I don't know how to tell you this because it might offend you, create conflict, and that's not fair to you. I don't want to do that to you. You're so good to me. I can guarantee you, I tell clients all the time, please don't believe a word I say. Be dubious, be skeptical, be cynical about every word I say until such time as it's fully realized in your own lived experience. But I can guarantee you, I've never seen this fail. Your partner will want to hear what you want to say more than you want to say it. Why? You're enshrining your truth inside of their truth. And then all of a sudden they go, no, you should be able to tell me how you feel. You're a good person too. You always give the feeling that you think you're getting. So it's never about being right or wrong. It's about the feeling that you're able to transmit by virtue of language, conversation, relationship outcome, predicated on the incontrovertible and unchanging nature of your partner's temperament. So here's an example. So I have a couple. He is the CIO of the third largest corporation in the world. Very powerful guy. So one day they're in my clinic, and he says, he's Jimmy, she's Jenna, of course. He says, Jenna, your smoking is really bothering me. It's dirty, it's smelly, it's expensive. It's a horrible example to our kids.
So he was being honest.
He was being honest.
Okay.
And the next words out of her mouth were, well, you can go F yourself. I'm a grown woman. I can do whatever I want to do. So I said, so Jimmy, you were just honest with Jenna, right? Yeah. How did that work for you? He goes, well, not very well. I said, okay, would you indulge me? Sure. Let's try the truth. Boy, Jenny, you poor thing. Boy, Jenny, you poor thing. Why? Well, you are the perfect mother, a beautiful woman, an amazing wife. Do you know how lucky I am to have you? And I should be way more thoughtful and appreciative of everything you do for me and the family. I need to be better for you. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. Remember, we don't choose our feelings. Our feelings choose us. So she's overwhelmed with these amazing enzymes exploding in her body that make her feel great. Then he says, but the reason I say you poor woman is I'm not a fan of the smoking. And Jenna, the truth, I don't know how to tell you this. It's only going to hurt and upset you. That's not fair to you. And as God is my witness, the next words out of that woman's mouth, who 2 minutes before had told her husband to F off, were these. Jimmy, today is the last day I will ever smoke a cigarette again for the rest of my entire life. Ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching. Now, what happened in that moment? She got the how. So she's glad to give him the what. The how is, look at, what's the what? It's an artifact, a contrivance we make up. It's something we think will make us happy. What really makes us happy is when we are treated with the love, understanding, and appreciation that we need from someone to whom we're so devoted, and then you're beside yourself with glee. You're driving to work in the morning and go dirty, rotten botcha pots. In the old days, I would go, I didn't win the lottery last night, and I'm married to a horrible person. Now I'm going dirty, rotten botcha pots. I didn't win the lottery last night, but I'm married to a wonderful person who makes me feel amazing. So the next week they come in. And she says, Dr. Burge, what's so fascinating about the conversation last week was the only reason I took up smoking was because of the anxiety and unhappiness in my marriage. In other words, this is always true. My husband was causing in me the very thing he most dislikes about me. That's always the case. Now, what does that mean? One last thing. It means to have a good marriage, don't lower your expectations. Don't have any.
Hold on, pause for a second.
Yeah.
Don't lower your expectations. Don't have any.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I show you what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
So please understand, many of us ask something of our partner that they are simply not capable of giving. Now, it's easy for you. Like, let's assume you're a very caring, affiliative, nurturing person, and you're married to, that's a feeler, Jungian notion. And you're married to a thinker, this is always the case, and they're very cryptic, very much about being right and wanting the glory for being right. So you're in a disconnect. You're an IBM, they're a Macintosh, your operating systems are shipped in the night. You speak Greek, they speak Chinese, you're toast. So what do? You go, oh, my partner's not capable of giving me what I want, because what I do is I compare what's easy for me with what's not so terribly easy for them. For instance, I'll give you an example. I have a computer fellow who comes by and helps me every couple of weeks because I am incredibly inept with technology. So one day he said to me, Dr. Burge, could you do this, that, and the other thing? And immediately, I felt exhausted and stressed, anxious. Now, if you ask me to do that all day long, I'd rather stick a needle in my eyeball. So what do? Your partner's not capable of giving you what you want. So what do? You make them capable. What? You make them capable. You change them. And by change, I mean relativizing their behavioral reaction so it's better than would otherwise be the case. So you're taking full accountability for your partner. And your job as a married person is to make your partner's life easier, better, and happier. So your partner's not capable of giving you what you want. You make them capable by, let's assume your partner is very gruff. So you start with them and say, boy, Jimmy, I'm curious what you're thinking and seeing about this issue that I don't see. What would you like to see happen? What do we need to make sure it doesn't happen so you feel good about things. You make it totally about Jimmy. So he'll start with the left side of the brain. But once his brain is expiated, he can't help himself. The human brain cannot multitask. It can only iterate. It naturally goes to the other side because nature abhors a vacuum. So the blood gushes there, the electromagnetic activity explodes there, and then he goes, but geez, you know what, Jenna, now that I think of it, I'm not being very sensitive to you about this, am I? For instance, he might say, you know what, Jenna, I want you to get a second job on the weekends, and I'm going to retire and live a life of luxury and leisure. Oh, really? Now, you would normally want to explode and rap, but you go, boy, Jimmy, that's interesting. What makes you say that? Now, this is one of what I call the 7 golden facilitative questions. I call them that because there's 7 of them. They're golden, they're facilitative, and they're questions. So a guy like Jimmy, the answer is always in the question. So you just keep giving him problems to solve, and that's what his brain loves to do. And then his brain iterates to the other side, and he's becoming like you and becomes more sensitive. Why? Language, conversation, relationship outcome that promotes in you being you, such that once you get your thoughts out, your brain expands and becomes inclusive of what your partner's thinking and feeling, because that's how communication really works. So you change them. Okay. And it works every time. I'll tell you how far I take this. So my wife, Sharon, I'm more feeler, she's more thinker. She's a wonderful, powerful, fastidious, driven, organized, detailed woman. And she used to criticize me. And I say, Sharon, why are you criticizing me? She goes, I'm not. Now, please understand, I have benefited inordinately from Sharon's strength. Let's be clear about that. Mm-hmm. So she would say, I'm not criticizing you, I'm helping you. Then I realized the way Sharon shows love is to fix things and make them better. So then I started saying to Sharon, whenever she said something that I felt was a little bit critical, I'd say, boy, Sharon, I'm so lucky. Why? Well, you're always trying to make my life easier and better. And I should show you so much more appreciation for that. And then she says, yeah, but sometimes I'm a little bossy. Really? What do you mean? And we have a great conversation. Now she doesn't do it anymore. I changed her.
How long did that take?
I'm sorry?
How long did that take?
That one took about 6 months.
Okay. All right. Consistency for those 6 months of making sure every time that came up. Okay. Yeah. So but the reason I'm asking this, Dr. Burge, because, language, crucial, the skill of applying the language in the right way, reducing your expectations and really understanding and, communicating to your partner based on, their view of the world and their experiences is really what, I'm hearing you take away. But I want to, I guess I wanted to find out, thank you for the personal example. I think that's also very real and very relevant. And I was just curious about the timeline because as people are listening, it's like, how do they take this and apply it? And then how long does this take? And what are they doing those things? I'm not saying we need to go there now, but that's why I wanted to just quickly jump in.
Possible question. So when I did my doctorate,
I
had all these couples over a 5-year period. And 93% of them ended up very happily. Now, here's the tricky part. They were arguing, on average, 5 times a week, an intensity level of 6.4 out of 7, which means they were screaming and screeching at each other 26 hours a week. Now, by the end of the 3rd week, the 4th visit, the frequency went away, the intensity went away, the duration went away. They stopped arguing. And the only thing they changed, it's the only thing I ever ask a couple to change, is their language. Now, their marital happiness, the first day they came into my clinic, was 1.53 out of 7. Dreadful numbers. By the end of week 5, they rated their marriage at 6 out of 7. That was 5 weeks. And the only thing they changed was language. That's it.
That's powerful.
Yeah. So I'm a marriage zealot. I say to couples, look you're in a pretty bad place. Let's be clear about this, but nobody's at fault here. You're a wonderful couple. I'm not saying you're perfect, but you're pretty darn good. But you have 2 children, right? I'm telling you, my bias is for those children. I want them to have the most wonderful life they could ever have. And I'm totally convinced, I'm a marriage zealot, that you're showing them how love and marriage and family really works is the best possible way to help your children have a wonderful life. So I don't lose. I'll be ferocious in fighting for your marriage. You'll go to some therapist and they'll go, well, I had a divorce. Sometimes it doesn't work out. Let's see if you're meant to be together. No, 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 no. You did not bring these children into the world to disrupt their lives. Yeah. So I'm going to fight with you for your marriage. So I'm very clear about my bias.
Are you a dad who feels like you're juggling a million things at once? Balancing work, family, and personal goals can be overwhelming. But what if there was a solution? That's why we created our new fatherhood community called Dad Mentor. For over 20 years, Dad Central has built practical tools to help dads. We understand the challenges you face and provide the support you need to thrive. The biggest complaint we hear from dads is there's no dedicated support for their specific needs. But not anymore. Our new community, called Dad Mentor, is here to transform your fatherhood experience. Imagine feeling in control, staying calm and patient when your children misbehave. Picture yourself connected to your children, guiding them with confidence and watching them succeed. When you join Dad Mentor, you'll have access to a community of like-minded dads committed to their dad journey, just like you. You'll also get the Dad's Roadmap. This is a step-by-step plan to help you go from unsure to unstoppable as a dad. Monthly masterclasses and Q&A sessions. You'll get answers and know exactly what to do straight from experts. Monthly group meetups that connect dads over common topics. A dad's resource library. Curated webinars, podcasts, or guides built by Dad Central to help you grow as a parent. And finally, you'll also get exclusive members-only offers and events. Now, many dads do try to do this fatherhood thing alone, only to find themselves trapped in frustration and strained relationships. Then they may turn to unhealthy coping mechanisms like drugs, alcohol, or other distractions, leaving their family and their own well-being at risk. We don't want you to reach that point of regret. Take steps to invest in you and your family today. Join Dad Mentor and go from stressed, tired, and overwhelmed to confident, calm, and connected. Join us today by going to dadcentral.ca/dads. Yeah, well, on that point there, I think very crucial when we think about the work that we do here at the Dad Central Show, focusing on, and at Dad Central, focusing on that child development piece and how important the model of healthy relationship is for children as they're growing, because that's, the statement is that children learn what they live. And so as dads, the importance of understanding our roles in, having healthy relationships with our partners, and the impact that then has on our children as they develop. So that's so crucial. And, the example that we're setting for them in terms of also how do we treat each other as parents, right? And then how that translates into how we treat our children and what they see and learn. Anyway, so that's a very crucial point for us, because the research is clear. Yeah, hop in.
So this will take a minute. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Okay. So nature's fundamental concern is the propagation of the species. So it has opposites attracted to each other. So most men are thinkers. They're very detached. They're very direct. They want to be right. And they'll marry a woman who's a feeler. Now, that's not always the case, but when the man's a feeler, he'll always marry a thinker, as I did. So for 18 months, your brain secretes a hormone that makes all the red flags green flags. Then one day you wake up and go, oh my God, what's appealing? Has it become appalling? I thought you were strong. I think you're stubborn. I thought you were sweet. You're just an emotional mess. So then you go back to God or life or nature and say, well, we don't communicate. And nature furrows its brow and says, what is your point? I was never concerned about your individual happiness. I had larger DNA fish to fry. So then you end up with somebody like me, and you learn how to trick and deceive nature, even as nature has tricked and deceived you with language. So nature wants a thinker, a man, because he will love the child for what the child can be. The feeler, the mother, will love the child for what the child is, who the child is. So let's assume your child has gone to hockey practice and the coach has been a little bit gruff with your little boy. He comes home and the mother goes, "Oh, Johnny, this is so awful. He's so mean to you. Here's some ice cream and here's some chocolate cake, honey pie. You don't have to go back and see that coach ever again." The child needs that. Needs love. And then the father says, "Johnny, get your soy you know what out there and show the coach what you're made of." The child needs both. But the problem is the thinking, strict father, the affiliative laissez-faire mother will view the other party as damaging to the child. So the mother will say, "You're so harsh on that child. You're going to destroy him." He'll go, "Well, you're so easy on the kid. The kid gets away with moida." So what do? Let's assume your partner is frustrating you and you think your child's well-being is in peril. So you would say, let's assume you think your husband is too harsh and he comes in and he really complains about the kid. And you go, "Boy, Jimmy, little Johnny can be really frustrating sometimes, can't he?" Yeah. And you know what? You're such a good dad. No wonder you feel frustrated. Yeah, but sometimes I'm a little tough on the kid. Really? What do you mean? And you have a great conversation. Now, remember, communication is when you hear Jimmy telling you what you wanted to tell Jimmy. In other words, Jimmy takes you where you would like him to go. Now, let's switch it around. So let's assume you're a man, a thinker primarily, and you think your wife is letting the kid get away with moida. She's too laissez-faire. You go, she comes in and goes, "He never listens to me." And you go, "Boy, he can really be frustrated, can't he, sweetie?" Yeah. And you know what? What's sad about this, you're a wonderful mother to that child. No wonder it upsets you so much. I can see how you'd feel that way. Now she got what she wants, and she immediately has a switch, an iteration in her brain where she goes, "Yeah, but sometimes I'm a little too easy on the kid." What do you mean? And you have a great conversation. Then you end up saying, okay, when we need in our system as parents, when we need strictness, I'll do that. When we need affiliation, you can do that, and away we go. You become a deeper team. So notice how you can take these egregious concerns and conflicts and flip them around if you know language, conversation, relationship building.
Yeah. What's Ed? You want to hop in?
I have a whole pile of conversation topics, but I think we're going to be doing a part 2. So one of the things I will say, though, is you're stressing on the language piece, but how effective is a change of language if it isn't coupled with action?
Okay, so first, so remember, there's home plate, first base, second base, third base, home plate. So I'll complete. So home plate is everything. Do I have a good deal? As I said before, there ain't never been no anthropological study where reciprocity was not the basis of all human interaction. And in fact, there's never been a psychological study when people are at variance where one party says, "Oh boy, let me listen to your argument first." No one's ever done that. People don't do that. The reptilian brain never loses. So first base, so home plate is conflict. First base is communication. Second base is compassion. Third base is cooperation. Home plate is collaboration, one body, one flesh, one spirit. The whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Away we go. So now we want to get you to first base. First base is communication, and it's a behavioral model. So I give you the language that you need, the treatment that you need, and it changes you. And you, please understand, the motivation to be good to your partner doesn't come from you. You're already a good person. And by good, I mean you want to do the right thing, and you have the grace and the wisdom and the character and the humility to go, "Well, I can make a few changes." So then you actually are so affected by your partner, you go, "Man, this is good. I'm going to keep doing this." But things are not bad, but they're not yet good. That's second base. So first base is helping. Second base is healing. First base is your neurology. Second base is your psychology. That's a psychological notion called attachment, where we go into your history and backdrop. And your partner's spiritual and transcendent mission in life is to heal you of what life and others have done to you. I do periodically have people come to me about inner child issues, and they go, "Oh, I've been with my therapist. I got it figured out." And I'll say, "So who in your life now counteracts and undoes to you what's been done to you by life and others?" And they'll start to weep like a baby and go, "Nobody." So it's not enough to know that your parents are doing their best. You need someone to existentially counteract the pain inside of you. So imagine being married to somebody and you go, oh my Lord, whenever I descend into the darkness, anxious or depression, what do I find there but you waiting for me like a candle in the night? Your compassion for me. Oh my God, I trust you. You're amazing to me. You take me out of my darkness. So I have many, many, many times people who suffer with anxiety and depression go like that because your partner replaces your anxious cortisol enzyme experience with oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. So now you're feeling good. So first base is feeling, third base is function. First base is being a wonderful couple. Third base is being a great team. First base is communication. Third base is cooperation. So now we get to your question. So what you want to do at third base is reorganize your life, leaving no stone unturned, dotting every I, crossing every T, till you're a well-oiled machine, a finely tuned instrument, and you create a system where you make sure that you're completely formalized in your agreement about how we're going to conduct ourselves in the construct of our domestic obligations. In other words, you'll meet for 15 minutes every week and go, okay, what went wrong this week? Why did it go wrong? What do we do to make it better? We're fine. We're great. We're a wonderful couple. We just need to tweak our system. So notice how you're fixing it out there. And the system promotes its own behavior. Systems always cause their own behavior. So now your system is bringing you together as a team. First base, wonderful couple. Third base, great team. Well, if you're feeling great as a couple, doing great as a team, you're at home plate and you're off to the races. So that's a wonderful question, but I crescendo to that as the last one, where you fortify a formal system that protects and promotes the marriage.
All right. Drew, back to you.
Back to me. So as you're sharing, the wisdom and the work that you've been doing and the impact you've been having, this really does for me boil down to that ability to see the world from another person's eyes, and really in the process you're describing to enter into their world first.
Yes.
And meet them there, and then then allow that world to sort of take shape and you be there with them, and then ultimately see how things can shift and move, but you're doing it together.
Yes.
What's the biggest barrier that you've seen that individuals bring that prevents that process from happening faster?
The biggest barrier. Honestly, I don't see a barrier. That sounds Pollyanna. Okay. But if I say to people, look, this is our working hypothesis. You're wonderful. You're not perfect, but you're great. Ain't nothing. What's wrong with you? Nothing wrong. So what we're going to do is I'm going to insist that you never change nothing. Now people go, oh, I thought you were going to get me to. No. In fact, the moment I see you trying to change, I'm going to put a stop to it. It's like that old joke about the psychologist. How many psychologists does it take to change a light bulb? Well, it only takes one psychologist, but the light bulb really has to want to change. I tell them, I don't want people to change. I want you to be who you are and be treated as you are, so you are then motivated to respond in kind. See, the problem is for 100 years, we treated in psychology the brain as a damaged instrument. Your babysitter dropped on your face when you were 2 years old and never bothered to tell your mother you're damaged, you're broken, you're wounded. No. The brain is much more sociological than psychological. I can change you by giving you feelings you want. So as long as you're a good person and have the wisdom and grace to go, I could be better, it's fine. Now, if the person isn't good at the outset, I change them. I make them good. You go, how do you do that? So let's assume someone goes, I want out, they're terrible, they're horrible, don't want to be with them. I'll say, boy, you've really been deeply hurt and angered by your partner, haven't you yet? Tell me more. So they start telling me. And I'll tell you a story about that this week, actually. And then at the end they go, but you know what, Dr. Burge, I'm not perfect either. Really? What do you mean? And I go, well, sometimes I'm not very nice to her or him. I should be. Really? and we're good. Now, here's how far I take this. I had a man come in the other day. This has happened many, many times. And his wife said, no, you're the problem. I'm not coming in. So I said, okay, give me your wife's name and number and go home and tell her that this therapist, Dr. Burge, said that I'm the problem here. You're no wonder you're hurt and upset and don't want to come to therapy. Made her feel protected. So now she goes, oh, this guy's a dude. He gets how I'm the child of light. No, I'm the incandescent and bedazzling child of light, and my partner's the child of darkness. So she calls me, and I listen to her for 45 minutes. It's always 45 minutes. And I say, boy, I can see why you would be so distraught and unhappy in your marriage. So she starts talking. Oh, he's awful. He's terrible. And then she goes halfway through, but there's a lot of good things about him, though, really. And then at the end, she'll go, you know what? I'm not perfect either. I really, yeah, maybe I should come in and see if we can work on this together. Happens all the time. So the problem, if there is one, is people are so damaged and so angry that they don't want to participate. So I changed that by showing empathy and understanding. They work it out, they talk it out, because here's the deepest truth of all. Life is intrinsically dichotomous, thus fundamentally dissonant, which is a fancy way of saying everybody wants to have their cake and eat it too. So life is two-sided. So you're going to start here, the view that advantages you in a reptilian sense. Your first reaction is going to be a reptilian impulse. So I need to let you talk it all the way through till your brain naturally goes to the other side. Okay. Now, I don't look at, remember, it's only 93%, but let me tell you about the 7%. You might find this interesting. The 7% are almost exclusively people who've been married 25 years or longer. What I discovered in my doctorate was it's harder on a marriage to be married 25 years or longer unhappily than infidelity. I can fix infidelity better than I can fix a lengthy 25-year odyssey of pain, resentment, and bitterness.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I would imagine that's a long time to experience repeated hurt, rejection, and all the other negatives, and lack of feeling seen, heard, and understood, which is really what you're saying is the core of every long-standing relationship.
So, guys, can I go back and tell you one more story? Would that be okay?
Yeah, let's do one more story.
So this is about Sharon again. Corollary 14 says, the more you invite or encourage the other person to be who they would like to be, and what they can only be because they started being this as an 8-week-old fetus in their mother's womb, so they can never change. Oh, here's another sub-story for you. So I turned 80 last Friday. My age has finally caught up to my IQ. And every second year, I golf with 35 men from 75 years ago, 1949, when Harry S. Truman was still the president of the United States of America, from Clarity Public School, kindergarten, on up into high school at W.A. Porter. And it's stunning. Not one of those men is one whit different than I recollect him being 75 years ago. People don't change. They get changed, but they don't change. So Corollary 14 says, the more I invite Sharon or your partner, anybody, to be who they would like to be, the more they become the person you would like to be. Remember, I mentioned to you Corollary 8, it's easier to change your partner than it is to change you. Why? Reciprocity trumps and transcends human nature. So human nature is a behemoth. It's a beast. It's not easily slayed, but there's a kryptonite. There's a antidote to human nature. You know what it is? Reciprocity. Here's an example of that. So my wife, Sharon, is very fastidious, very detailed. She's an amazing woman. She, to this day, at 75, is still teaching. She used to teach day school, summer school, and night school. So one evening, she's off to a night school, and she says, Gary, are you okay to do the dishes? I said, sure. So 9:30 rolls around. Now get the picture. I'm standing by a set of gloriously gleaming, freshly washed, resplendent, bedazzling dishes. These you could never miss these dishes. They're spectacular. Sharon comes in, and I say, hi, Sharon, hope you had a good night, thinking that she will, of course, notice these dishes. How could you not? But Sharon, being who she is, like a heat-seeking missile, sees a tiny speck of dirt down around the corner behind some counter that no human being in the world could ever see except my wife. She is a divine gift to see little things that I missed. And so she said, oh, Gary, you missed this little piece of dirt over here, didn't you? And I'm thinking, you walked by a set of gleaming, gloriously resplendent dishes to see a little piece of dirt that nobody could ever see but you. Now, I'm the one that wrote Corollary 14 that says the more I invite Sharon to be who she would like to be, the more she becomes the person I would like her to be. So Corollary 8, it's easier for me to change Sharon than for me to change me. How do you change somebody? By insisting that they don't change nothing. You accept them absolutely. You accept your child unconditionally. You accept your partner absolutely. So the next Thursday night, Sharon comes in. I'm standing again by a set of gloriously gleaming, freshly washed, resplendent, bedazzling dishes. Sharon comes in. I say, hi, Sharon. I hope you had a good night. Now, remember, language, conversation, relationship outcome. So then I add, by the way, Sharon, what did I miss here? What did I not do up to your standards? Be Sharon. No, be Sharon on steroids. And as God is my witness, the next words out of Sharon's mouth were, I don't know, but you did the dishes. Geez, you're a good guy. Thank you. Now, what happened in that moment? The conscious mind chooses how we act. Oh, I think I'll get another coffee. The unconscious mind, the reptilian brain, chooses how we react. We have no control over that. So I spoke right to Sharon's reptilian brain, said, Sharon, we're going to make this about you. You're amazing. You're great. I need to be better and get up to where you live and your standards. The reptilian brain gets confused. That's the best thing you could do. And it goes, oh, geez, Sharon, this man really understands you for who you are, appreciates you for what you do. Throw the man a bone. So the reptilian brain sends a message up to the amygdala, this little almond-shaped organism deeply embedded in the limbic part of the brain. It's the sensor that keeps score, and says, you know what? Be good to this man. He's good to you. We always give the feeling that we think we're getting. So I win because I get the appreciation for something that I hate doing. Sharon wins because she's married to a man that gets her. So what we did was we elevated the conversation so it didn't disintegrate into a pissing contest. And in so doing, advanced the relationship and the feelings therein, and created a transcendent but inclusive resolution, the best of what I wanted, the best of what Sharon wanted, but something even better. Language, conversation, relationship outcome. Language will change your partner in ways they could never change themselves. So that's what I mean when I say emotion without skill is chaos.
That is so very well said, and I think a great, wrap up to really just a lesson, like a lesson for all of us listening on how to be way more effective and happier, I'd say, in relationships. The last part that you said, and I'll talk more, I'll share this a little bit after with Ed, but that last part about not really, I'm going to use it, accepting your partner for who they are and using your skill to meet them where they are, I think is really, really powerful.
Accepting who they are and promoting who they are to them.
Great addition. Yeah, that's right. Love that. Promoting. I'm going to remember that. That for me is going to go on my little whiteboard here. Promoting.
Could I make one more comment about that, guys? Is that okay?
Yeah.
So it's important to understand that we do not have free will. We only have free won't. This goes to the comment you just made. What does that mean? In a seconds transaction between you and your partner, your reptilian brain has already decided what you're going to do. You don't feel it, you don't know it. It's going to go fight if you're a thinker, flight if you're a feeler. Then those feelings explode for 0.3 of a second through the limbic emotional brain. And the last 0.2 of a second, they flash up through the thinking brain. But the thinking and emotional brain are weak and insipid and impotent as compared to the reptilian brain that's 25 times faster and more powerful than those other two brains. So what does one learn to do? One learns how to veto one's brain. How do you do that? With language. So your partner says something you don't like, and immediately, if you've got the language searingly inscripted into your brain, you go, boy, I really said something there that upset you, didn't I? And you know what? I should never do that to you. But you have 0.2 of a second. You've got to have that language just like this. So when I say we don't have free will, we only have free won't. You can veto yourself with language. But that means you have to have it practiced and rehearsed and at the ready.
Okay. Well, I think that might have been the answer to, as we wrap this up, based on, all that you shared, what's a question that every dad should be asking themselves about their relationship?
Okay. So let's assume you're in a bit of a rocky marriage.
Okay.
Right. And you differ about parenting. And you're more direct, more logical, more factual. Your partner's more affiliative, more caring, more about the relationship. So you're about the task, they're about the relationship on measure. And you're disagreeing about parenting. Just say, boy, little Jimmy can be really difficult sometimes, can't he? Frustrating. And you know what? You're such a good mother. Honestly, I should be so much more thankful for how wonderful you are to our boy and more supportive and understanding of everything you feel and go through. I'm telling you right now, you will be Sir Galahad for a week. You will be able to do no wrong. There ain't a woman in the world who is being told by her husband that you're a wonderful mother that doesn't go, holy, you know what? This guy is fantastic. Oxytocin, dopamine, serotonin. So that's what you can do. Now, on top of that, you can then use that language on anything with which you differ with your partner. And of course, we differ about so many things. So there's 3 difficult languages or conversations I help clients learn. First of all, to protect your partner's truth by what I just said, to promote your partner's truth by learning how to tell the truth. Remember the story about Jimmy and Jenna and the cigarette smoking. And then to solve a problem, the kind of problems that so easily bedevil and afflict everyday marriages. And there's what I call the 7 golden facilitative questions that enable you to come up with a beautiful resolution that works for both of you. So learning those 3, how to master those 3 difficult conversations, you do that and you're golden. You can do no wrong. Why? Because you're giving your partner the feeling that they crave. And a feeler will perish without feeling acknowledged, understood, and reassured. A thinker will get really angry and pissed if he is not recognized for his intelligence, his analytical and logical skills.
So knowing yourself and knowing your partner and being able to effectively use language to communicate that to them. Awesome. Okay. Well, Dr. Burge, this has been really valuable. Lots of great stories, and amazing depth and insight that you shared around the I'm going to say it's simple, but not easy.
Yeah.
To be able to implement all that you're sharing. But the concept is, I think anyone can grasp and understand.
Yeah.
So
if I was to give a capsulization, the goal, the outcome is a happy life by virtue of a happy marriage. The process is to make your partner feel being the operative term, understood for who they are, appreciated for what they do. And the way you do that, you leverage one thing, reciprocity. That's it. Reciprocity changes everything. And a language that reflects a reciprocal caring attitude changes your partner.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Burge, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you.
Really enjoyed this. Great conversation, great insight. And as Ed said, I think we'll have to come back for a part 2.
Yeah, I would love to.
All right, Ed.
Well, Dr. Burge, just to close off, where can people get in touch with you?
Oh, okay. So you can go to themarriagetherapist.ca, and there's quite a bit of information there about me. As you said, I've written 23 books. My marriage book is called How to Have a Great Marriage: The Art and Science of Marital Happiness. It's 544 pages. It's basically an expansion of the conversation we've had today.
Well, thank you so much for taking the most important thing that we all have, and especially yourself, your time to share with the Dad Central Show family. As always, if there's anything we can do to assist you, because you've assisted us a lot already, we're here to help you. And as always, to yourself, your family, and all the marriages that you uplift. Don't just manage your time, manage your energy, and remember to give yourself grace, and look forward to a part 2. Take care.
Good. Thank you, man. A pleasure. And I wish you a very good day.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Drew.
Well, I'll have to share this, I guess. So, I was in a marriage for 14 and a half years. We call it, it was a failed marriage. And I'm in a new relationship now. And so I was very interested to hear what Dr. Burge had to say, but also very reflective as he was speaking on I saw that, or I've experienced this, or this makes sense. And I'm like, oh yeah, I can see that. And so um, I think from the biggest takeaway for me, as just wanting how do I improve myself? How do I grow in my capacity to be in a healthy relationship and show up in a healthy way and support my partner and grow our to that happy state that he's talking about. What stood out to me was this idea of promoting at the end, promoting your partner and not trying to change them. And so that's an area that I'm like, makes sense, but it's like how he described it, something clicked for me. So for me, that element of, really promoting who they are as they are is a really important takeaway. How about you?
Yeah. Just to build on that, we all have to realize you can't change anybody. You can't. Everyone goes through life differently. They walk differently. They talk differently. They look at the world differently. And I like the area of the promotion stuff. Absolutely. You got to be there to support. If they want to make a change, it has to start with them first. Have to be there to promote, etc. 100% agree with that. And also just showing that it takes work. It takes work. And, if you're in a relationship and if you are having challenges, there are great people out there like Gary who has, as we say, the receipts to not only make you better, your relationship better, but your family better and also others better. So definitely it takes work. It takes work. So great conversation. Looking forward to a part 2. Excuse me. Dad Central Show is sponsored by Dove Men Plus Care. Dove Men Plus Care believes that care is the best of a man because when men care for themselves and others, there's a positive impact. Something we'd like to hear from y'all. So email us, podcast@dadcentral.ca, ideas, guest suggestions, thoughts, feedback. We'd like to hear it. And also, wherever you're listening to us, especially on Apple Podcasts, rate the show, give us positive ratings. Also, if you want to listen to replays or watch replays, go to the website, dadcentral.ca/podcast. And then finally, Dr. Burge has lots of resources. We have lots of resources for dads and parenting. So go to the website, dadcentral.ca. As always, I'd like to say thank you for taking the most valuable thing you have in your life, wherever you're listening or watching, your time. And as always, don't just manage your time, manage your energy. And remember to give yourself grace. And we'll chat with you soon. Be well.